Hey everybody, Dan here along with Joe, aka Merlin from the Merlin the Mighty channel.
Hello.
And this is Dan Does Disney. Usually I do these with Tim because lately, as we're in the late 50s here, Walt is really getting with the live action. So we've been doing all of these live action things, some westerns, some 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But he finally put another animated movie out.
Oh, okay.
Many years in the making. And this is what you're here to talk about. Your copy of Sleeping Beauty, and I have a copy as well. In fact, I have two. I just brought the most recent.
Ooh.
But this is my copy of Sleeping Beauty, so we're going to discuss some of these things. Now, you own this because this is one of your favorite of the Disney animated classics ever. You've always said this to me.
Yeah, and I wanted to actually bring this up because I thought it was very interesting because I realized something. Basically, I watched Sleeping Beauty probably a little over a year ago. I got this actually as a Christmas gift for my fiance, and we watched it together because I knew she liked just the art of it. It was one of her favorites, and I always liked it a lot too. And I watched it again, and then I realized, upon just kind of thinking about it today, this is actually the first Disney movie that I ever bought with my own money.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
On a VHS, I guess.
No, my mom would have got it for me.
Oh, okay.
So we had a bunch of them. Like I had this on VHS, but this is the only Disney movie that I actually own.
Yeah, this is true. You don't own many. That and probably Lone Ranger, I guess, right? You love it. You do love it.
Well, look, Lone Ranger is fine, but no, I do not own that.
Okay, all right.
So it's that definitely, and you know me, I don't usually have a lot of income to spare.
You have very little collection of
actual
DVDs and Blu-rays.
Which I do want to change, but if you consider that really says something.
It says a lot.
That's a testament to how much.
So we're going to talk a lot about why that might be, why you love it so. I have not seen it, I don't think, until today. This is not one that we watched growing up. When they did the re-releases, it wasn't one of the ones I saw. I mean, I may have when I was real little and just don't remember, but
so it's
not one that...
You basically watched it for the first time.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a lot to uncover here. I spent the good, 4 or 5 hours with some bonus features. Did you watch any of the bonuses on there?
Well,
I know you said if you had time, maybe you would knock out a couple.
Since I don't really get the chance to do this, I know you like to share a lot of the features, and I'm sure some of them carry over, but I had enough time that I watched all the features on it.
Wow.
I listened to some of the commentary. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but after listening to about 20 minutes or so and realizing a bunch of the featurette stuff was in the commentary, and Malton and Lassiter,
Malton and Lassiter,
like Sleeping Beauty's great, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I get it.
All right, well, you might have an interesting point of view then, because I'll tell you about some of the bonuses on mine.
Okay.
Because they're not all on there.
Oh, no.
So you may have seen some that I didn't see.
And apparently this one also carries over from features from the original release.
Most of them do these days, yeah.
It said I think it said basic
classic features.
Classic features. I was
like,
oh, okay. So
usually it's from like the first DVD iteration or something, or some from the Laserdisc even.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this movie's background first.
Sure.
I always love to run some background, and fortunately with these movies, the animated classics, there's no shortage of details. Sometimes for these ones Tim and I are covering, some of the like off-brand westerns or whatever, it's like
not much
I have to like dig and go through many like Disney fan sites and da. But this one, it's pretty cut and dry because A, there's a ton of information in the features, but then B, the Wikipedia has a lot just right on there.
Being so well known, I guess.
So this is not going to be an incredibly like deep dive. You could look up a lot of this stuff just on the wiki page or whatever, but I will throw in some things I learned from the commentary.
Okay.
So first of all, this was 1959, $6 million budget, which at the time was the most for any Disney film, live action or animated.
Wow.
And it earned $5.3 million in the original run, so a loss. But then $56 million in North America over time. Okay. Over the different re-releases. This was more than twice the cost of each of the last three animateds. Wow. They were each under $3 million. This was the 16th animated film, first one in 4 years total, because we did, Lady and the Tramp, I think was the last one we did.
Yes.
And this was their final princess story for 30 years. until Little Mermaid,
Oh.
which I didn't think about, but that was said in one of the features.
Wow.
So the low performance of this film, coupled with the rest of the 59 to 60 releases, which Tim and I have already gone over some of them, and we'll go over more, but they resulted in the company posting the first annual loss since World War II.
Oh.
And so there were massive layoffs throughout the animation department there,
wow.
which is unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
like Alice in Wonderland, which was also not successful upon its initial release, Sleeping Beauty was not re-released in Walt's lifetime.
Oh, wow.
This was one that came out several times after, but not during his life. It was re-released, I should say, in 1970, and that was a 35 millimeter cut.
Okay.
And then it was re-released in 79, which I would have been 2, so
No.
I know we didn't see it, because that was not the first one I saw. And then another one in 86, and then again in 95, which it was going to be re-released in 93, but a bunch of stuff happened for some reason. I don't know, maybe they were focusing on The Lion King
Probably,
or whatever.
yeah.
And so there you go. So because of all the re-releases, it is the second most profitable film of 1959 at this point in time.
After, I think it said Ben-Hur, right?
Judah Ben-Hur,
Which,
yes.
great movie.
Which
so
makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, when you adjust for inflation, it's actually in the top 40 of all time for grossing films.
Wow, like just over with
Which is
releases.
with all the releases, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And your favorite, the National Film Registry,
They
in 2019 selected it for their list.
2019.
So it is in. It's a newer entry.
All right,
But it is in.
As far as I'm considered, stamp of approval.
That's the list you usually go by.
I mean, if we're talking about in general, because they're thinking about all the angles and they don't select just anything. You can tell they really think about it.
And there's literally every kind of thing in there. There's
so much.
There's TV commercials. There's animated shorts. There's there's a lot in there. But they only pick 25 a year. So if you get the stamp, and most of the animated classics are in there.
What was the
that we've gone over?
What was the limit again for it to get in?
It just has to be 25 years old.
Okay, so it took a while. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
actually.
many years after it was eligible.
But hey,
very few get in that first year. I think Groundhog Day did.
I think
there's a
usually
couple,
it's like 10
but
years or something.
I think Toy Story might have gotten in on its initial, but yeah, usually it's
pretty.
Or no, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. It is 10 years.
I thought it was
Rock
10.
and Roll Hall of Fame is 25.
That's why
years.
some of the dates.
You're right. It is
like,
10 years. I'm
what?
sorry.
Like, this just got in like 6 years.
You're right about
Like Fargo got in pretty soon, I think.
Fargo might have been the first year or the second year it was eligible. Yeah. Okay, so here's what makes this movie kind of a cut above a lot of the ones we've done recently, which I think if you go back and watch Our Lady and the Tramp and Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland, they're very middling.
I mean, like we always say the same thing. Like there's good elements, but we haven't really felt wowed by the Disney animated.
I think I haven't since Cinderella, which is now 4 movies ago.
Cinderella was a great surprise for me.
Yeah.
Because remember I wasn't too excited about it, but yeah, the last.
But then
couple,
it was amazing.
It was very.
The last few were not so great.
Peter Pan.
So we'll see about this one, but this was the first animated film to be photographed using the 70 Technorama, they called it, widescreen process. Second full-length animated feature to be filmed in widescreen at all. Lady and the Tramp was the first one. We talked about that.
The innovator again.
And it was originally released with 6 different tracks of stereophonic sound. So people in the theater were hearing things never heard before, coming from all angles. I guess that's sort of a surround sound kind of early.
Precursor.
Yeah, precursor. So the story for this developed way back in 51. And of course, this is, a famous tale. But Walt was trying to really figure out how to differentiate it between Snow White, Cinderella, some of the other ones that he had done. And so he decided to do that with the art direction.
Yeah.
The designs of the characters, the sets. And he called it a moving illustration. He wanted it to be.
It's like, let's get a painting and make it move.
Yes. And the versions that we saw on these discs actually show more than people, even when it was first run, saw. Yes, because let me see if I can find it here. Because as you can imagine, I sort of wrote things all over the map here.
No, I'll even point out, we'll go into it further, I'm sure, but just watching it on the Blu-ray was popped.
Yes, I will say this is now the second Blu-ray in as many weeks that I've just been floored by it. We watched the premiere of Hannibal
Oh yeah.
for an upcoming video
Oh man.
on a Blu-ray, and it was like I was astounded.
Really makes color design just pop.
But this, and it's the same. I think it's the same Blu-ray version as the one you have as well.
Well,
it
worked
is
for me.
the most crisp animated movie I've ever seen.
I think that's probably possible.
And what's interesting is the very first Blu-ray I ever got was a Disney movie.
Okay.
One of my favorites, you could say.
Okay.
Tangled.
Oh, good movie.
I bought a Blu-ray player, and that was, or maybe I bought that before the Blu-ray player. I forget, but
You were ready.
either way, it was the first one I watched
Put
on
it
the
in the
player,
player.
and it was great. I was like, wow, this is but this looks even better than that, and that's a new movie.
Well, I think they remastered it again. I believe
They've remastered it a couple of times,
just
which
to keep
we'll talk about, I guess,
and the sound too. You get to.
Yeah, when we get to the home releases, we'll talk more about that. But these ones we have, so it's featured in the full negative aspect ratio of 2.55 to 1.
Okay.
Which in theaters at the time, 2.35 to 1 was the highest they had. So, those little parts on either side of the
A
screen,
little more.
we saw that, and they did not.
So yeah, a little
So
more.
this is actually, yes,
A
this
more
is actually
complete-
a more complete version. Isn't
Wow,
that crazy?
that's really awesome.
That 50, 60 years later, they can do that.
They can flush it out. They're kind of redoing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, the characters and the sets, that's how we're going to differentiate this. So, by the 50s, a lot of the Disney animators who left during the strike had formed their own company called UPA. And they were doing Mr. Magoo cartoons. They did the Dick Tracy show in the 60s. The cartoon. So they were kind of making a name for themselves. So Walt was like, all right, how do we compete a little more with them? They're doing things a little bit differently. Their designs are a little different. So they said, you know what, we're going to pull out all the stops and really, fire this up.
Completely different design.
Absolutely. And the Raven, did you hear about the Raven at all? Maleficent's best friend here. Walt wanted somebody from Maleficent to talk to.
That's right, because she's really just talking to the audience.
Right, so they designed this Raven, and a lot of the true life adventures that Tim and I have been doing, the documentaries, helped because a bunch of them have different Raven scenes or whatever. So they were able to watch a bunch of footage of ravens and how they moved and all of that stuff to kind of get the design down.
I think it was one of the featurettes, one of the gentlemen said, they would ask me a lot of times for these movies to get footage that I was filming for the animals for motion and stuff.
Right.
So I guess that's what it was.
Which is very clever because, those true life adventures they still hold up today. I mean, the footage they got is great. So Sleeping Beauty herself, only in 18 minutes of the film. Because she's asleep for most of it. So
that's true.
She only has 18 lines of dialogue in the completed film.
Huh.
Now there's more on the deleted scenes and stuff that I'm sure we watched, but she has 2 songs, 18 lines of dialogue, and that's it.
Wow.
And Mary Costa, the gal who voiced her, was told by Walt that he wanted her to paint with her voice and do, the songs and as if she was holding a paintbrush and doing it that way. Oh. So that's why this is a little bit more
operatic.
I was going to say advanced.
Okay.
Than
that works.
Any of the Disney movies we've seen thus far. And I think that's true.
It's pushing boundaries again, but also redoing the whole model. It's doing a whole new thing.
Yes, it is. And so let's see. Was there anything else? You're going to give us the whole plot, of course.
Sure.
The animation. Yes, how the animators left. So one of the animators, because they had taken so long to get the movie out there. Originally, it was supposed to be out in '57. That came and went. Then '58, and then finally January '59. But one of the guys either, I forget, I don't think he died, but he left Disney or something.
Oh, wow.
All right, so what else? Here you go. In December of '53, the guy suffered a heart attack.
Stress.
After just a couple years of working on this. So Eric Larson of the famous 9 Old Men, he took the reins and basically kind of finished it off. And it was still on track for '57 at that point, but they kept pushing it and pushing it. Reminds me of COVID times.
Yeah.
You just don't know when something's going to come out. But apparently, one of the 9 old men blamed Walt for all the delays, saying that he wouldn't have story meetings about it, he wouldn't get it moving.
Well, I saw something that basically Walt was, I guess, pushing, but something different was he didn't bend to his animators as much. Like the guy that he basically gave control of the design, they said, no, you have to listen to him because I want it done his way.
Right.
So,
well, one of the
there's some
things
contention, I guess.
was that the our gal Mary, that is the famous female animator at Disney. Walt was actually kind of disappointed apparently with the look of Alice in Wonderland because Mary Blair had done all of these great designs, and the animators largely didn't sort of use her vision.
Yeah.
And so that was, a bone of contention. So I think that's probably why he said, look, listen to this person. They're going to be in charge here, whatever. And so one of the things that I thought was very interesting about the production of this is, unlike a lot of the other films of that era, the Cinderellas, not so much like Snow White and stuff, because that was so far away.
Yeah.
But more like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, that kind of thing. They wanted it to not really be dated.
No.
And so as such, they have the whole medieval theme, and I'm telling you, those castle sequences, I mean, this looks so much sharper than literally anything that's out today from computers.
Yeah.
I mean, this is hand-drawn, obviously, 2D animation, but I guess maybe partially because we don't do 70mm anymore. I don't know,
It's
but like
partially that, and I'm guessing it.
I think it's just beautiful.
It's harder to do for, I think, digital stuff and make it look
Yeah.
this crisp and present it a certain way. I guess when you transfer it, I'm not.
Well,
really
I've
sure.
always had issue with the way that people are drawn in CGI. And I actually mentioned this in my Raya and the Last Dragon review because they actually look great. I've not seen humans look that good.
They always look so
Most of the
rounded.
Pixars are about not humans.
Yeah.
So it's like, and the humans they do have look goofy.
There's some movies
not
that have
Goofy, the
like
Disney character,
pushed the 3D models more. Like I guess just great animated. I feel like Into the Spider-Verse was a great.
Yes, a lot of they're getting a lot better at it.
Now.
But that first 10, 15, 20 years of doing everything CGI, I mean,
They still look kind of.
I love Tangled, but when you compare, Rapunzel, whatever her name is, to Aurora, it's like night and day. I mean, and Maleficent, oh my God, she looks so great here. All right, so before we get into all that, but that's the animated, that's the animation bit.
Yeah.
But that's partially why it took so long.
Well, yeah, there was just lots of delays and differences and some infighting and like trying to read. Yeah, they were really trying to push for this one to just be something new.
Yeah.
And deliver the same sort of story that made them popular, but try not to do the same thing at the same time.
And I believe that they succeeded in that endeavor.
I think they did.
Well. So let's talk about the plot.
Sure.
You're Mr. Plot.
Yeah, I get such an easy job with these early Disney movies because I mean, there's
not much. Yeah.
Like in all fairness, Sleeping Beauty doesn't have like that much plot really. I mean, Aurora.
And many people know it.
And people know Sleeping Beauty.
When Tim and I do these,
you guys have to explain it. I have no idea what.
Oh yeah, he goes on for like 8 minutes because it's like nobody's ever heard of these movies. So it's like,
well, good. That's a good thing.
Really fleshing out the whole thing.
That's good.
But here it's like it's pretty basic, and everyone already knows it.
Pretty standard fairy tale. Yeah. I mean, really, it's kind of like one of the big ones. But Aurora is this princess that's born, and everybody's excited. Her parents are happy about it. But at the, I guess, celebrating her birth at that party, one person's not invited. It's Maleficent.
Yes.
She was upset about this.
Which was a big key in the movie Maleficent.
I was trying to.
Sorry.
We'll get into.
We'll talk about that. But
I was actually going to think. Are we going to go this whole conversation? Now it's there.
No, we'll talk about it. Of course.
Of course, that we have to. Anyway, actually, that's true. No, that makes sense. But
yeah.
Anyway, of course.
Because when this scene came up in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, that's what they did in Maleficent.
And to be fair, we'll go into it. But you can tell that even with just little hints of things she says, that clearly. There's a reason she does what she does. Like, there's some baggage, but we never really get any of it. But,
no, unfortunately not.
But we will later.
We will later.
To mixed results.
Yeah.
But basically, Maleficent's mad about that. So she's like, well, I too wish her beauty and grace. But
However,
when she pricks her finger on the spinning wheel on her 16th birthday, she'll die basically, or death like sleep, or no, actually, it was death originally, and then the one of the three fairies.
Please.
They said, please, but Meriwether then said, okay, well, I'll use my gift because they all gave her gifts. It was, I believe it was, Flora was just beauty, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then Flora was song, because she could sing well. Yep. And Meriwether just, who knows what she was getting. If I joked it might have been intelligence or something.
It could have been intelligence.
Or maybe not intelligence. I don't think she's done. Maybe charisma.
Well, she has some
we'll go there.
Issues.
But I joked about that as I was watching it with myself. But like basically said, okay, instead of getting killed, you'll be put to sleep until you're kissed by your true love, whoever that may be.
Classic.
But they're all still worried about it. They're like, okay, Maleficent might try to do something in the meantime because she knows about that. So, all right, what are we going to do? We're not going to use our magic. And the three fairies decide, hey, we're going to raise her away from the castle. Just keep her away in the woods somewhere.
Right.
Bring her back when she's 16. Curse will be lifted, and then we'll be good to go, which her family's upset about, but they do it. And 16 years go by, and everything's going good until the fairies want to make her a cake and dress, and then they kind of do some fighting. And not so nice.
It's tall.
It's tall, but it's a little bit. They've never done anything without magic, which is kind of makes you wonder. But basically, they're kind of doing their infighting and arguing about which color it should be, and turning it blue or pink. And the sparks go up, and Maleficent had sent her raven out to find it. Discovers this, and kind of right before this happens, Laura's just, out there with her animal friends, which is pretty classic singing.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Dream.
Singing her song.
And then Prince Philip is wondering, but is like, oh, he kind of like is like, oh, maybe I can go in there and maybe I could be the guy. And then they sing, and then they're in love because it's the 50s Disney, whatever.
Yes.
Fairy tale.
You have to keep it to 76 minutes.
Whatever. It's for kids.
Rushed,
whatever.
Very quick.
I don't care. They're good charisma. They're good chemistry. I guess it's fine. But she's upset because she gets the reveal. Oh, and they think you're happy.
Yes.
Oh, okay, you're actually a princess. And she's like, no, I don't want to be. It's funny because her whole life kind of gets destroyed. It's not just about this guy she can't be with.
No, it really does.
Because she doesn't know that he's the prince.
Everything gets very upended.
So she actually gets kind of really traumatized by it. She's very sad. They try to sneak her into the castle, but Maleficent knows, hypnotizes her with the weird trance, and then, she goes into the sleep.
And then
Pricks it.
Pricks that finger.
Goes into the sleep, and... Well, at the same time, Philip was lured there. He's captured, and Maleficent's going to torture him or kill him or whatever she's planning to do. Something. But the fairies are like, hey, we got to save the day. So the fairies go, and they basically rescue Philip, and they get him the magical sword, and he fights Maleficent, turning to the dragon.
I was going to say the dragon bit.
Big sight.
That's a pretty classic
scene battle. There, pretty epic, with the hero fighting the dragon. And then he kisses the girl, and Sleeping Beauty is saved, and they live happily ever after. And movie plot.
Yes, end movie. The end. Jolie again does it again.
See, we're done. Okay, you're here. So,
all right. So
where do you want to start?
Well,
because I don't really know.
Okay, let's see here. Well, we could get a couple of elephants out of the room first.
Oh no.
Number one.
Dumbo.
No, that's a different element. No, this movie, although probably like Dumbo, starts with the classic Disney live storybook.
Oh yeah,
turn the pages.
With the jewels.
You hear the singing, all the choral singing, and in the commentary, I think it was Malton that said about...
they all start this way.
Well, yeah. Walt really wanted to make use of the current Broadway style of singing. Da, 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 da. All right, look, we're 20 years on now. We can drop the choral bit. Okay.
I'm very happy to bring that up because...
Snow White was, 37 or something? I mean, we're 22 years on here.
He liked whatever the choral... choir,
we call it the choral gospel, singing. We call it
whatever it is. We can't figure out the genre, but you know what I will say?
Tell me.
It's not exactly a leap forward, like we said, but you know what? They based it on. And, okay, I'll tell you this, because this surprised me as I was watching. I'm like, we should definitely talk about the music because for once, the music is awesome, but there's not so many musical numbers.
No, hardly any. It's mostly score. Which is set to.
It's based
kind of Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty with some alterations.
Modified the ballet. And I'm like, well, I really like the movements. Like this is, of all the scores for Disney, this is by far
Well,
my
what's interesting
favorite.
is, other than like Fantasia,
really classic.
as far as the animated ones go, I don't really remember that much in terms of score. It's mostly the singing.
It's mostly the sing along.
It's mostly the sing along
and the sing along. Yeah, and I was.
It's mostly either the characters singing or the choral singing. On the soundtrack.
And I think
I think it's very little score, if I'm remembering that right.
And maybe that's one reason why I liked it so much. Certainly why I liked it now is because I find a lot of that stuff seems kind of like drawn out and kind of honestly kind of puts me to sleep. It doesn't really excite me. But this stuff was like, with all the movements and how once again they match it to the animation, there's just some really awesome music here that complements the visuals so well. Because the visuals were trying to be based off the Gothic, pre-Renaissance motifs and with the architecture and the costumes.
And because of that, like I said, it's not dated.
No.
It's so interesting to watch this for the first time in 2021 and to see these gorgeous landscapes and castle scenery and all of it.
So detailed.
The ballroom. And it actually reminded me of the ballroom a little bit in Beauty and the Beast, which even that was 40, 35 years or whatever after this.
Yeah.
So I was blown away by that.
Yeah.
And because of that, it doesn't have a dated quality that I think a lot of these animated movies that we've gone over have. The other one that I would say probably doesn't is like Pinocchio. Pinocchio doesn't seem very dated. It's more primitive in its animation because it was the second one, but like that, maybe Bambi.
But like the general look and sound, it doesn't seem like you can pick it apart and say, oh yeah, this is based on the 20s or something.
Right. Whereas this is just...
It seems like somebody could have made this as a project and released it today.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
They could have.
Now, if it was released today, of course, they would have had to flesh out the story.
A little more. and
make it longer than 76 minutes. But
and the characters a little more.
Characters would be more developed. But look...
Probably a little more... Probably pushing the violence and stuff a little more for adults.
For the PG.
But like, honestly, though, that's another thing about it I think is pretty great is that this is one that I think has something for everybody.
Yes, you could say that. Mostly great choir singing in the beginning. Horrible. That's the worst part.
Like the opening credits, but I did like the opening number. Hail to the king.
The songs in here are okay.
That was fine.
But I do agree that, with what they said in the commentary, that like Walt already sort of did this through line with Cinderella, Snow White, and so how do you set it apart? And I think it isn't with the characters or the story. I think,
not really.
Like we said, that stuff is quite basic.
It's all the aesthetics.
It's everything that goes into the art direction and everything of this film and the look.
Honestly, I mean, that's really, if we summed it up, I just think as an artistic piece, like visually and sonically, I just think for that alone, on its own merits, it's amazing.
Now, how do you feel about the songs that they actually do sing? There's only, I think, 2 of them, right? It's only
like there's
I
Hail
Can
to the
Dream.
King. There's the Hail to Aurora. I do like that. I was singing that earlier. Once Upon a Dream.
Yeah, Once Upon a Dream
is fine. And what's the other one? Is there another one?
I don't know if there is another one.
I thought there was the 2. There's like the
maybe
2.
Maybe that's it. Maybe there's
the
2.
opening one where they're singing about her, and then Once Upon a Dream.
Well, Poor Aurora. That's kind of a song.
Yeah. I think is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
They've only got a couple little sing-along things.
Well, I wonder, what about that? That's kind of a song. That's like a 2-minute song.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
They're light on sing-alongs.
Yeah, which I'm okay with.
I think that...
I don't think that those songs are as memorable as some of the ones from Cinderella, for example, or Snow White.
No, but that's the thing. It didn't really bother me because, like I said, I think the score was really doing the heavy lifting musically.
I would agree with that.
And I was pretty into the score.
I think this is more of a score movie than anything else.
I didn't really realize there weren't musical numbers until I was in. All right, just to give you an example of how good the score is with the visuals.
Do tell.
There are many. My favorite piece is just they use it a couple times whenever there's about to be a violent moment. But it might. Not just my favorite scene, but it's definitely the one that I was the most into. Is when Maleficent's trying to hypnotize Aurora, brings her out of the bedroom, and is trying to bring her up the tower.
Yeah.
And you've got the the fairy's asking, where are and it's echoing, and it's like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, a lot of
that was like
urgent pieces.
I was just like, don't. Like, I know what's going to
I felt the same with the dragon.
And I think
the dragon fight.
I think it's a similar piece for the dragon.
Yeah, it might be.
And that's the thing, Dan, is that I know Sleeping Beauty. I've seen this movie before.
Love it.
But you know,
but you were still
I was so into it that I was like, don't do it. Like she's just and I was so the music and the art direction conveyed so much, even though
why have any songs? I guess you have to.
I guess you have to because it's a kids movie, but really, I loved the music in this movie. It worked very well.
I think it worked very well too. And speaking of the songs. The last, at least couple of movies we had,
I don't really like
there was at least a racist song in there. You had We Are Siamese for the Lady and the Tramp.
Oh man!
You had the Red Man Red and Peter Pan. This is you could watch this today, and
not offend anybody.
It's maybe the first one in a while that there's no.
Don't need it.
There isn't. Yeah, there. I mean, you could really release this today
it's okay.
as a brand new movie.
No, it doesn't. It's not mean to anybody.
Other than fleshing out the characters some, it would just fall great at the box office. I think.
I think so.
So I think that's an interesting aspect to too, and another thing that does make it very timeless. You know, and look, I think maybe that is partially because there isn't as much singing, so there isn't. A classical score never goes out of style.
It's classical.
We use them today in Tenet. We use them today in Star Wars. Whatever.
Classical music is classical. It's
right.
You can use it. For
it is.
It's kind of the
always used as a score.
Standard for cinema,
and will be used as a score until the end of time.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I do think that is a big part of it. If you cut out that stupid choir song in the beginning, Sleeping Beauty, the whole bit, horrible, hate it.
Just cut it.
Yes, trim that. Put the credits at the end of the movie like they would have now anyway.
You know they were probably going to get more.
There you go.
Well, maybe we won't get. Well, actually, I don't know. We're going to get more of those for a while, aren't we?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because I think our next one is still like another 2 or 3 years down the road. I think it's 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because Tim and I talk about the music in some of the movies we've been watching, and
how are they?
Not bad. Like, okay, so Davy Crockett's like the big go-to, Davy Crockett, which is definitely not a chorus song.
Well, they're
it
like
is
musicals.
Yes, it is.
They
more
actually
of
do singing,
up-tempo, almost like a pop
theatrical
number.
Sort of thing.
A little bit, yeah. I don't think the characters are usually singing. It is actually on the soundtrack.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, for the most part.
But it's a guy singing a song, not just kind of moaning.
It's basically a pop song.
Okay.
It's not this choir nonsense. And I don't know why it took him so long to adjust the animated films to that style.
Maybe it's a sensibility thing.
Because he was going for all his movies are really for families. But
I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe church choir.
Maybe that. I
don't know.
I don't know. And they were still. I mean, look, they were doing, I guess, music like that on Broadway at the time, but
you know more than I would.
I feel like it was about the time of Rodgers and Hammerstein, though, and I feel
like that was popping by then.
Yeah, I feel like Oklahoma Sound of Music, State Fair, those aren't.
Let's see South Pacific. Oh, let's do stuff like that. Like people like that. That's.
So I don't know. Maybe because this was in development for so long.
51 original.
In 51, of course, was before rock,
maybe
but
they owed somebody something. I don't know.
But look, also of course, the great Disneyland stuff that Walt was working on at the time. So he probably didn't have his hands so much in this movie anyway, regardless of the animation stuff that we'd already talked about. But it's possible he was just like, well, whatever you think is best. And they were like, well, this worked for Cinderella. Why don't we start it again like this? I'm getting a little tired of it.
With everything else.
But yes, everything else was great. That I didn't care for so much. But all right, so why over everything has this been a Joe staple? What? Because when I first was hanging out with you and we were talking about some Disneys, you hated Pinocchio at first. You were real pissed off about this other movie. You hated this, but for some reason this one always stuck with you. Why is that?
That's a good question.
One of my theories is...
Give me a theory.
Well,
I could probably give you an answer, but I'd love to hear your theories.
My one theory could be that it takes place A, in an era, and B, visually, with something that you are interested in. It takes place in medieval times. It takes place with castles and that sort of thing, which certainly interests you more than it does me.
Well,
so I think that could be one reason.
That could be because I'd like to think that even as a young kid, I had a good eye for good storytelling. I mean, I've loved movies and stuff from a young age, and obviously I was exposed to a lot of the classic early Disneys. And the truth is, I've mentioned this before, but like with Pinocchio, and I think with
talk about good storytelling,
Dumbo, yeah, and watching this again, I did obviously we talked about them.
Yeah,
they're very good, and I appreciated them a lot more now. But as a kid, either certain things about the story didn't resonate with me, or they kind of creeped me out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic.
You didn't care for the Pinocchio like coming to life and that whole bit.
I don't know. Something about it just the whale scared me.
The whale scared me too, man.
Like there were certain almost
That's
like
for sure.
weird elements that were like just more submersive with that.
Okay.
I guess. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, Sleeping Beauty has darker elements too, but. I'm gonna agree with you that I mean even as a young kid I loved history,
right?
And my favorite period of history to read about is actually the Middle Ages and the Renaissance.
Okay,
like
that doesn't surprise me.
Like medieval England, I love all that stuff. So you're right, the aesthetics of that.
Well, Lord of the Rings, I mean,
and also with just fantasy, I mean, I mean, yes, there's elements of romance and stuff, of course, which is fine, but. You've got a really cool villain with magic who turns into a dragon, has like a goblin army. And this would have been something I was exposed to before Lord of the Rings.
What about... Yeah, that's true. What about...
So that stuff's good, the action.
Okay, so Maleficent herself.
That's probably a big factor.
Very evil.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you know my favorite of the Disney villains. Maybe not still to this day, but the classic favorite.
Is it Cruella?
We're going to meet next in 101.
Cruella
de Vil, starring Emma Stone, is one of my favorite villains.
You know, we'll have to talk about that more, because that surprises me.
Is that right?
Well, maybe not surprises.
Right.
It seems like you, but it's just, you know what? I know
she wants to wear animals as a coat.
It's pretty evil. She's pretty evil. The thing, but all right,
Mr. Burns all over again.
Mr. Burns, and maybe that's something you like is a villain who is more grounded in something.
I guess that's true. She's not magical. She's just an evil person.
But knowing the type of movies and whatnot you like, I mean, you've
Although
got
Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
She's magic.
Well, Wicked Witch is also kind of a Maleficent-esque.
But
anyway,
she is very Maleficent.
So, look, there's different archetypes that are good. So
that's true.
But for Disney...
Maleficent's even green.
The thing... I'm pretty...
She is.
Oz reference.
It actually might be an Oz reference.
Though I have a feeling Sleeping Beauty existed before Wizard of Oz. If we're
in a story?
In a story form.
Yeah, but I mean, in looks-wise, for this particular picture, I think she's modeled after the Wicked Witch.
Oh, no doubt. But I'd say, the thing is with Cruella, and your sensibilities, I feel like Cruella is the kind of villain that could fit into like some sort of comedy, or dark comedy if it's like live action, which they're thinking about doing.
Well, and actually...
That seems you.
Actually... I think you're onto it, because of course we'll talk so much more about this when we do 101 Dalmatians. What'll be nice is by the time we get to that, I think the Emma Stone movie will have been out. But one thing I think that really drew me to her more than anything else is the Glenn Close performance in the live action one from the 90s.
Which I actually liked that, yeah.
I loved it. I think the second one was stinky, but I loved the first one. And I think that may be a reason that the character of Cruella resonated with me so much. But aside from that, since we're on the subject, let's move it to Maleficent Jolie.
Well, before we jump into that, I want to include, I think it is the aesthetics and just the general classic
that
fantasy
turned
it on to me. But I honestly think that in comparison to the way a lot of the other films looked and sounded, they seemed kind of off and old, and they got the which I didn't like as a kid, because it just like, what is this? I think the timeless element of that through the sound and through the vibrant art direction and segue, Maleficent herself is such a cool, iconic, scary villain.
Yes.
I can tell you that my default answer would have been Maleficent for a long time.
Well, and when you compare her to something like the Wicked Witch in Snow White,
you mean the
Stepmother,
Queen,
whatever, Evil Queen, whatever it is. Stepmother was a Cinderella.
But she's also a stepmother, so it's the same.
Yes, they're all basically the same.
Well, no, she's not a stepmother this time. She's got her own agenda.
Maleficent, yes,
Yeah.
but I mean in the other two, they're basically the same. But
same voiced by the same lady.
Voiced by the same lady, but very.
Man, she's.
They're just not written very well because there's nothing to write. You know,
Well-
Snow White was more about the music,
Right.
more about the gags.
Well, look,
and the cute dopey and all that.
And this is
the
why.
dwarves, but
that's why we don't really. We kind of take it into account where it's like
the era.
get this fairy tale
Right.
fleshed into a visual
Yes.
for kids. But you're right. Evil queen wants to kill Snow White because she's pretty and hates that.
Right.
Stepmother is just jealous. A little more motivation.
More motivation.
her
Cinderella.
daughters-
I love Cinderella.
But you're right. But still not very fleshed out.
Right. I think with Maleficent, I do think we get the most fleshed out, even though we don't know a lot of the background until they put the Jolie movie out.
But the thing before we get to Jolie,
But she's still very evil.
That's the thing I really liked, and I understand now why. Other than the fact she's so popular, they made those movies because my favorite thing about Maleficent this time around, which I picked up on a lot more, is that she is an extremely well written character, considering we don't know a lot about her.
Yeah.
Because I think through the acting and the very specific lines, she conveys so much. Like I love when she.
Let's see who voices her.
Oh, she's great. But I love the scene where she literally goes in. It's a great scene. Probably the best scene for her character, maybe other than cursing Sleeping Beauty.
That's pretty solid, yeah.
Is going into... You see Philip in the dungeon to mess with him, and they imply some weird things, by the way. And she kind of tells him like what she's going to do. She's going to let him sit there, basically let him be 100 years old, and then let him go kiss her and then die right in front of him. Like getting into his head, and they explained how they animated that and made it sound like it was in that. And she's like... And show that true love conquers all.
Yeah.
Like, clearly, she has issues with that concept, because...
Oh, yeah.
But you can just tell that she's jaded, cynical, and she's, like, committed. I mean, she's like, oh, you think you're going to be the hero of the story? Like, she knows how this is supposed to go.
Right.
She's just loving messing everything up. So...
She does.
She seems, on first glance, like she is this one-dimensional, pure evil villain. But there's a question as to why.
Yeah.
Which maybe should have been left as a mystery, but...
Well, but you know what? And I think because of the way she's drawn, no pun intended, I know you prefer your puns intended.
I do.
But because of the way she's drawn, I think we are more drawn to know about her. Like, I think Evil Witch in Snow White, or whatever she is, the queen, is just... I don't know.
Queen was evil, though, because she wanted to cut her heart.
Yes.
So that's
she had problems, but...
Issues.
But also, the queen in Alice in Wonderland. Off with her head.
Well, she had issues, too.
They all have issues, but we don't necessarily care about them because they're so cartoony. Because the way Maleficent is drawn...
And played it, voiced.
That's true.
I guess she was performed the live-action sequences, too, actually.
Yes.
So, yeah, acted.
Yes. Okay, so...
This lady
her
was
name
a
is
boss.
Eleanor Audley, who I don't know by name, but she did also voice Lady Tremaine in Cinderella.
Yep.
But to see her, I know her from the TV show Green Acres.
Oh.
She was the mother. She was like a recurring character on Green Acres.
Was she nice?
I mean, no, not really. She wasn't a Maleficent. She was just... You know, she would like make fun of people for being stupid or whatever. But
okay.
But so I think that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Because I do know her. The voice did not ring a bell at all.
Well, she seems like she does a very similar voice for Tremaine. And
yes, I would agree with that.
It's very like drawn out, you know.
Yeah.
So it might not be how she sounds.
A bit wicked witchy, one might say.
Well, yeah, she does do the cackle.
I mean, look.
She does do the cackle.
There's a template, and then
there's
everyone.
You work with the template, and I think one great thing about this is with their villains and with the movie in general, they had a template.
Yeah.
They built upon a new template.
Yeah.
And combined them.
Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, a lot of the ones we have seen recently, like Lady and the Tramp, it was based on like a story about this guy and his dog, but like it wasn't a classic fairy tale like Cinderella. You know, Peter Pan, of course, was a classic story, like some of those other ones. So that could have something to do with it as well.
But
all right, but we got to talk about Jolie here.
I know we're going to. I was about to say we'll talk about it.
So
it's not going to be a short conversation.
No, we knew that. You did not care for Maleficent.
I can't remember didn't I give it like a B
No,
minus or C
I think
plus?
I gave it a B minus. You and Justin were C or less.
Well,
and I thought it was okay. I loved Jolie in the role. I thought she was great.
I did too.
Good casting.
Great casting.
Actually, some of the best of the live action casting.
Dan,
You thought it was bad.
I don't remember. Look, I didn't like it very much because I do think. All right, here's my issue. All right,
Okay.
let me take a sip here. All right, hold on.
Tell me your issue. I liked the fairies. They were cute. Juno Temple was one of them.
Actually,
you hated the fairies.
Actually,
that was why.
Now you're bringing it back.
Okay, now I brought it all back.
Yeah, thank you. That's what it was. That was a big
hated
thing.
the fairies.
The fairies are so quintessential to the story, and they're so. When they talk about how they animated them, because they're the one character that's familiar,
right,
and to be round, but they take up space and somehow match this completely different back. But they're all distinctive characters and likable and cute, but they're competent most of the time, and they're useful.
In the movie, were they just dummies?
They were okay. They were okay. Like I did I think Umbridge from Harry Potter was.
Yes, yep, that was one.
I liked the ladies that played them. I thought they played them okay, but whenever they went into fairy form, a lot of the visuals were so ugly. They looked so ugly.
Yeah, what's interesting is
the whole movie looked kind of ugly.
Judging between side by side comparison, Sleeping Beauty's art and Maleficent's design and look.
Dark gray.
And oh my god, the second one was even worse.
Oh, that's right. There was.
That was actually one of the worst movies of the year of 2019. Mistress of Evil was so bad.
Oh man.
Jolie again. But
well, here's the thing. The fairies actually were a big issue for me. Some of the visuals, and the thing about it was this. Looking back on it now, I still kind of feel the same way, but I'll give it a teeny bit more of a pass.
Okay.
Because it's a different interpretation.
More of a B minus, like I gave it.
Probably closer, maybe C plus. I kind of liked certain things, like I liked the idea of fleshing out the backstory.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me into it. But I never saw the original movie, so to me it was like all new. Like I wasn't comparing it to anything.
And that was my issue. Is I'm thinking of this great villain who is so evil and is kind of evil incarnate. And I'm okay with fleshing out a villain, giving them some depth. You know that.
Sure.
Sure. I love a great written villain, more humanity, and more connection. It's complicated.
Hannibal again.
Challenge the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. But they went completely too far the other direction and made her basically the hero, and that's why I said no.
Yeah, they made her the most sympathetic. Okay,
she wasn't evil in the movie.
I'll tell you where they did it well. It's you know what I'm gonna say.
I actually don't. I'm so mad about what you just said.
No, it's Oz again.
Okay.
I think Oz the Great and Powerful gave us an interesting interpretation that did not make the Wicked Witch. Because I think Wicked kind of makes the Wicked Witch
I haven't read it,
hero.
but I know that Wicked is seeing it from her perspective.
Right.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
But as a different take. But I do like Mila Kunis, right?
Mila Kunis, yeah.
I remember I didn't quite buy it at first, but overall, you can see how she might have not started out bad, and then became that way and became evil. But but she goes that way.
Yeah.
Whereas here they just said,
Jolie's Maleficent is a hero.
She's a hero now by the end. I'm like,
yeah.
They even make another villain, the guy that betrayed her, which does explain why she felt betrayed by love. But another thing I didn't like about that movie was, to introduce the concept of the guy takes her wings so that he can get the kingdom.
Oh, that's right.
The guy from District 9 is like, but guess what? Once it turns out he's the father of the king, King Stefan.
Yeah, that was a twist.
Was a twist. And then after that, they don't do anything with that. They never talk to each other. They never direct each other. It just he's a straight villain.
Okay.
This guy this is the core of her origin.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna turn him into an evil bad guy. And so they made the king, who I like in this movie, a horrible villain. Yeah, that's another reason I don't like.
True.
So and now you understand that.
I understand a lot of things.
Actually, yes, it's coming back to me. Yes, I do. I don't really like Maleficent that much.
I knew it.
And
my B plus is too high.
I think if you've seen the movie, you can understand some of the issues I'm taking, especially with Maleficent just
being the hero. I get it.
Yeah, they didn't fully commit to what they were.
It is a different interpretation, though, right?
Yes, but okay, all right,
but
Dan,
not a good one, maybe.
I'm like I said, I'm trying to be open to different interpretations,
right?
But the one thing, whenever you're adapting something that's so iconic, we'll go back to the classic Batman or Superman, whatever.
Okay.
if I told you this about The Dark Knight Rises, okay?
Stinks.
Is that if they do something that I think changes the core essence of what makes the character
right?
I can't get behind it. Like Batman retiring at the end.
That was weird.
That he's obsessed. He never stops being Batman. So there's a line, and I think granted this is the only thing, but she's been known as such an iconic villain for so long. I felt
in
like
Joe's heart,
she
is pure evil,
with
very little wiggle room.
A little wiggle room,
but very little.
Very little.
Yeah,
and that's
to completely upend the story and
subvert
make her the
expectations
hero
was tough for
not.
me.
Okay,
I just think to do it better, you acknowledge it and say she is still a villain, but you flesh it out to explain why and make the transition make more sense.
Right.
As opposed to just saying no. This story
I can get behind
that we just watched. No, she was actually. We watched this movie. She's not the. Regardless of her motivation,
I can agree that she's probably watching Maleficent now. I haven't seen it since whatever.
I'll watch it
2014 or whatever. Well, look, when it comes time for Dan Does Disney to go over Maleficent in 10 years,
hit me up, and if I'm still caring, I'll look. The point is,
all right.
I
understand that. I got it.
I think you probably understand more.
I do understand more now. Because they made it very different.
Angelina Jolie.
But she was
a great casting choice.
Great casting
She did a good job. I just wish she had been able to be full or more villainous.
And her costume.
Yes, they did a good job with the costume and the CGI and the
makeup. We can't deny some of it.
Her cheekbones were very prominent.
Cheekbones were very good.
Yes.
However,
I like Angelina Jolie.
Who was the Sleeping Beauty in that movie?
Some person.
Some girl. Was it Elle Fanning?
No, I don't think it was Elle Fanning. I don't even know. She was very...
Some other person.
She looked like a Sleeping Beauty type. She little young blonde, skinny, white princess. I don't know.
All right, hold on. Now we gotta find out. It really wasn't Elle Fanning?
She might have been somebody. You might know her. I have no idea.
Yeah, I maybe did. Okay.
Maybe it was.
Let's see.
What if it was Elle Fanning? What if I was wrong? No, it was Dakota Fanning, was it?
No. Yeah, Elle Fanning was Aurora, the daughter of King Stefan.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow. I didn't even. Wow. She didn't do much in that movie.
No.
She was Sleeping Beauty, though. Oh, that's another thing, too.
She's very good.
Is that, you want to know something? I think that...
More of a Dakota fan.
I do like... I like all the... All right. I think...
All right.
I've seen more Dakota movies, but the point is, I actually think that... Okay, I don't want to do a disservice to Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
And I think the movie actually did a disservice to Sleeping Beauty. And that the movie...
This movie or Maleficent?
Maleficent.
Okay.
Because I think... Because as... Talk about not fleshing out characters. The characters from the 50s cartoon feel more human and fleshed out than the ones in the live action.
Actually, that's probably
true. Which I know it's not their movie, but they're like an afterthought. They're like... Actually,
that's probably true.
So that also I didn't like. So I think a lot of stuff they just didn't do as well.
Okay.
Even though they were trying to make it more complex, they didn't.
Right.
They didn't commit.
Do you know if Prince Philip was called Prince Philip in the original story?
No clue.
Okay.
We're going to look it up.
I wanted to look it up today, but I forgot. The only reason I asked that is because...
Seems weird.
Well, Prince Philip, is like still alive now, like the real Prince Philip, and he's 99, so he would have been Prince Philip even back then. I don't know if it was a nod to that or not.
Prince Philip.
That would be so weird if it was, though.
I don't know.
There's no way.
Because Prince Charming was Cinderella, right?
Prince Charming was Cinderella.
Who was the prince?
And I think Prince Charming was also Snow White. I think they were
They're
the same.
both Prince Charming?
I think.
There's multiple Prince Charmings,
Aren't they?
I thought it was just the We should look this up. I actually want to know. Which one? Are there multiple Prince Charmings?
All right. I can only look up one thing at a time here now. Come on.
This is where Sleeping Beauty goes off the road. But I'm serious now. I thought there was only one that's Prince Charming. I thought Snow White was just No.
Cinderella.
Wait,
Cinderella for sure is Prince Charming.
Then who? Then is he just the prince in Snow White?
Who is Prince Charming? I'm going to look up. God, what a mess.
20 people come up.
Yeah. Prince Charming is a fairy tale stock character who comes to the rescue of a damsel in distress. Okay.
No, but
Hold on. Look up specifically.
Who marries Snow White? Who marries?
Prince Charming is Snow White.
Okay, what about the Cinderella?
I know it's Prince Charming.
If there's two Prince Charmings, you cheats. He's cloning. Is he the descendant of the other Prince Charming?
Prince Charming is Cinderella. I'm telling you, I knew that one.
Okay, so Prince Philip's at least his own guy.
Prince Philip at least is his own person.
Thank you.
Hey, they got Flynn Rider in Tangled. That's different.
Oh well, he wasn't a prince.
God, I love Tangled. Oh, I guess that's true. He was not a prince.
Though
He was just a
honorarily.
person. But then he became a prince, I think, because they got married, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right. So did he become king? The king, I guess.
I guess King Flynn Rider or something. King Charming, as they call
His
him
honorary
in
title.
town.
You are now bestowed one of the charmings. Why?
Oh God! All right, I don't know if he was Prince Philip in the book or not, but that's very interesting. It could be a nod
But
to the real Prince Philip.
but yeah, it could be.
All right.
Prince Philip.
Look, we're almost an hour in here. We got to talk about some other things.
Yes. What else you want to talk about?
Well, is there anything else about the movie specifically that you want to talk about?
Yes.
'Cause I've already talked about so many things. The
I did.
how about all the fight choreography?
Oh, the fight choreography was
The dragon
awesome.
scene is great. Even the scene where they're doing the wand fight, that was really well done.
The wand fight was cool. I think
Again, good music.
My favorite animation during the battle was I saw during the recording. They of course were redrawing over people's movements to simulate, and he actually was climbing up and trying. And
Walt is the master of that.
loving how fluid they get it, and I just love how it's very clear that the prince or the person that was doing the choreography didn't quite know how to use the sword. So I guess the prince doesn't have a lot of combat experience because.
Which makes sense, actually.
Without the fairies, he would have been killed quite a few times. And of how, like, when he's climbing up, he's, like, desperately just flinging the sword. Like, he's not really, like, doing any parrying or anything. He's just like, just like, keep away from me.
Yeah, he's clearly not a pro.
He's scared. He's on the cliff. And once again, you're like, like, is he gonna fall to his doom? And she's just laughing. She's Maleficent. Fight choreography was great. But the one thing I want to mention, which I don't think gets talked about enough, really is... There's actually a kind of a cool bit of comedy in the movie between the fathers, between Prince,
a little bit,
King Hubert, and
I would say
Stefan.
that's probably the only comedy. Well, a little bit with the cake, I guess,
and the fairies.
So, some of the stuff with the fairies, but
they've got a good exchange, and I thought it was kind of, and this is another thing, along with some of Maleficent's kind of comments about knowing how a fairy tale's supposed to go, and kind of like laughing about true love. There's just something, I feel like you can get the nuances of a character there. Something that went completely over my head as a kid was the fathers are clearly kind of matching egos. When he's like, "Oh, I don't think that my daughter's good enough for your son, or son's good enough for your daughter." They're about to have a war, and the guy's fighting him with a stiff fish, and then it goes limp at the end. I'm like,
that's a sex joke.
And then they chill out about measuring stuff, and there's a lot of machismo. And
that would never fly today in a G.
But I was thinking,
that would make it PG automatically.
That was clearly a very mature but kind of intelligent sort of joke, and I really liked the dynamic of those two fathers. And one thing that I didn't really think about that much, I really love how, I wish the Queen got more to do, but I like how Stefan really does love his daughter and wants to protect her and misses her a lot and gets so upset when Hubert's like, oh, they're going to get married, and it's like, I want to, my daughter's come back after all these years, you're going to take her away. Like, he's really like, he doesn't want to do that. So
well, no, because he didn't even get to see her
know her.
Grow up.
So it's like, so you can really feel in the performance like how sad he is, and Hubert's just kind of like, it's great.
Now, see, that's something they could have fleshed out more.
Yes.
I know Walt was all about the 75-minute films, but
I want a little more of those scenes.
Yeah, I really would have liked
because
some of that.
Otherwise, at the end, like, oh yeah, they're happy and I can dance with the prince. How about I get to know my parents for a couple of years?
First.
Because she's about to be married, basically, so these two countries don't go to war. Interesting little thing in the background, because these guys clearly have a weird relationship. But the great thing that I liked, that I guess has been there, but I really wanted to point out was King Hubert has a little character arc.
A little bit,
because he's all
true.
like, he's really just kind of is like, I care about my son, but I know what's best for him. And he's like, no, I'm in love. I want to do my own thing. And there's that great line where he's like, I can do what I want, like marry what I want, marry who I want to. Yes, marry who he wants to. No, wait, he just kind of gets him to misspeak. Is pretty great.
Yeah.
So that's funny. But he, of course, at the end is like, I get it. Maybe he can marry for love. Maybe that's okay. And he thinks that he's fallen in love with a peasant girl. And the king is like, you know what? Maybe he can do it. And then, of course, realizes it's Sleeping Beauty. But he was about to, right before then, say, all right, maybe we can't go ahead with this marriage because, my son loves someone else.
You would say those are also some of your favorite characters. The kings.
You know what? Yes. I think their dynamic and humor and adding a little more character and story to it kind of holds the really dramatic stuff together.
Well, and I mean, this of all the ones we've seen is probably the most dramatic.
Oh yeah, the darkest for sure.
I mean, some of them are dark, certainly,
but like serious.
A lot of humor too. This one is mostly serious, and there's, like you said, a little bit with the fairies, a little with the kings, but
also with
for the most part, pretty serious.
There was the guy with the fiddle. There's also some drinking jokes about drinking wine and stuff. So I don't know if that was G or whatnot, but who knows back then?
Nowadays, probably not. I guess
they even said that. I think in one of the featurettes, they're like, compared to anything we've done before, this was a pretty serious movie. We want to take seriously.
Well, and that was part of Walt's thing too, to differentiate it from the other two, because Snow White obviously had the dwarves and they were cute and funny, and then Cinderella had the mice and all the singing, and then the turning pumpkins into stuff,
which
whatever.
Might explain why they did more stuff with the choreography and live action, because I want to pick your brain on this, because they said this and I think it might be true, but I was kind of surprised. Like maybe they're overselling a little, but maybe not. They built upon it a little bit with Alice in Wonderland and with Cinderella, with modeling the actors' movements.
Right.
But they said that these characters, they really wanted to get the subtle shifts in movement and convey a lot, even with just facial expressions and movements, more so than they'd ever done before. So they said that this is the most photorealistic for imitating human movement they'd ever done.
I think they're right.
Which is weird, because it's like fantastical, but it really is good.
Okay, but thinking about, and we'll get to it in a couple of months, I guess. But thinking about 101 Dalmatians, like I think this is superior even to that. And from what I remember,
I saw a clip of it, and I'm like, it looks like a downgraded quality.
The backgrounds and everything in this, and like you said, the movements, and that to me, and if you think about it. If this was a money loser at the time,
they need to cut back.
Then maybe Walt was like, let's go back to basics and have because look, I like the parents in 101 Dalmatians are fine, but they look very, very basic and very like stock Disney
the dogs
animated,
or the humans,
the humans, like the dad and the mom.
I remember that they looked fairly. I think they moved pretty well, if I remember correctly. Okay. Like they moved fluidly, but they look more cartoony. Like the guy has a big nose.
Yeah, they look like caricatures.
A little more. I mean, not like Super 6, but like toward that direction.
But yeah.
And also, I guess, as well as pushing things to a different direction, they also kind of like some of the opening sequences and stuff, like where they got the birds flying. That's all like in camera practical stuff that they had to figure out. So even with that stuff, it looks great, and that's not even drawing. So
and just think about how with the new 70mm stuff, they had to draw even extra to what they're used to drawing anyway. Which, granted, is probably mostly just sort of backgrounds and whatever, but
they said that
still,
I guess for 70mm, they had to actually draw on a longer sheet of paper all the different cells. So you're thinking, I guess because they have to flip it to catch their movements, and they're like, it was a lot more difficult to haul this big thing working with that longer sheet.
Right.
And you think about animation for a second, especially back in the day. You gotta draw this whole scene like a hallway, all this detail.
Right.
Then you gotta match it with just a little difference to show. I'm like,
and isn't it crazy that then
time and dedication?
Then when they showed it in the theater, some of the ends got cut off.
So some of their work would never be seen.
Wouldn't that be heartbreaking? As one of the animators, you put your heart and soul into it.
I think they'd be happy the project's over.
I guess that's true too.
Get paid still.
Get onto a different project.
Stress,
all right. So it appears that the prince in the original Sleeping Beauty had no name.
Okay.
So I think they could have. I think this could be a wink, wink to Prince Philip, who is still alive and with us at 99.
Wow.
Yeah, because Queen Elizabeth would have been queen by the 50s. She's been queen for 70 some years.
Jeez.
So God bless her. She's 90. I think she's 96 or 97. Anyway, let's talk about these DVDs. First, I guess I'll talk about the different releases, as we always do, because of course this is one of their most released, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
So the first one was 86. You had in the U.S. you had VHS, Betamax, Laserdisc. That was part of the Classics collection. It was the first Disney home release to be in hi-fi stereo. It sold 1 million copies, then went into the vault. It was released in 20 other countries for the first time between 88 and 90. '97 was the first restoration, and then the re-release on VHS and Laserdisc. A couple of extras there. 2003 DVD 2-disc special edition. They had the widescreen and the full frame.
Okay.
That was released to over 40 countries. Then in 2008, this is, I think, what you have. The Platinum Edition, is that what this says?
So.
Well, this is actually Diamond Edition. Okay, so that's a different one.
Okay.
Platinum Edition DVD and Blu-ray. First of that line to be released in high-def video.
Ooh.
So it's breaking all these first because it was the first of its kind theatrically.
Push it more.
And the 2008 was the first one to be released with that original aspect ratio that we watched it in.
Okay.
And then 2014 is what you have, the DVD and Blu-ray, digital HD, over 80 countries got that release.
Nice.
And then I have the 2019 60th Anniversary Signature Collection. But let me tell you what I actually have an issue with this.
Uh-oh.
Okay? So here's the extras that are on this.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Okay.
So 43-minute making of.
Mm-hmm.
Full audio commentary, like you mentioned, with John Lasseter, Andre Deja, who is a current Disney animator. He worked on Frozen and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
And Leonard Maltin, our good friend. Plus, they put in like excerpts from the actual animators.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of like 4.5-minute featurettes. There's Walt in his own words, which is just different interviews of his cobbled together about Sleeping Beauty.
I don't think I saw that one.
There's a Fun Facts, which is sort of like a YouTube, like kind of Fast and Furious, like, oh, did you know this about Sleeping Beauty?
Don't know that.
That was actually kind of cool.
Okay.
Disney Animation Artists in Motion. This was interesting. It was another 4.5 one, looking at the current animation studio and what goes into being a visual development artist.
That's the Lady with Paper?
It's the Lady with Paper.
Oh,
she worked on Wreck-It Ralph.
This woman is...
That was really cool.
This woman is amazing. Can we do like a mini-series about her?
I know, is
and
that
what she does?
cool?
Like, so basically, like, okay, the people when they're developing a concept for a film, you have to try to visualize in 3D to kind of tell us like what us writers want to see visually.
She does it.
With paper.
I know.
And I'm like,
well, with Disney Plus, they are doing a lot more of these like behind the scenes
cool.
type things. They have one for Pixar Studios. They have one for Disneyland Rides. They have one for something with Marvel, I think. So yeah, they are like Disney Plus is pretty cool if you really want to see like behind the scenes stuff of the studios.
That was
that was awesome.
Great featurette.
There's 10-minute retrospective on The Art of Evil, which was decades of Disney villains.
Yeah.
And then they were interviewing current Disney animators.
Uh-huh.
12 minutes of deleted scenes, which is just like storyboards and dialogue left on the cutting room floor. Okay.
Yep.
So you got a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, everything except for the fun facts and Walt in his own words. I think I saw the doc and the villains. And,
okay. So
and a couple other things.
Probably some more on yours, right?
Yeah, there was one about the artist that painted everything.
So
and his rough life.
There is a 1-minute commercial basically on this to to go download with your code or whatever and unlock 2 hours of classic special features.
Okay.
All right, I take issue with this because first of all, codes expire. Okay, so if in 40 years, if I watch this and try to put this code in, well, I won't see any of those special features. That's not cool. How cheap are they that they can't just throw in another disc in here to give me the special features? I did not like that.
Oh.
Thankfully, I also have the 50th anniversary,
Okay.
so I'm sure I probably have all of those. But, yeah, you probably have more special features on this guy from 5 years earlier than I have on mine.
Yeah, I thought you were going to have more than me.
No, and usually that's the way it goes. They up the special features with each edition. So I did not care for that.
Yeah, it was like they had one for, they had one for the one artist who was kind of overseeing everything, I guess the guy that took over. Some of his old interviews talking about the importance of that. And the other one, I think...
Probably some Walt stuff from the Disneyland show where he introduces things. That's always a classic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. They had a little lyric music video, which is Beauty Oak, which was literally just a lyric video of Once Upon a Dream, which was actually pretty well done.
Yeah, you like that?
It was really cool. Like they would do sequences but zoom-ins, and it would be like cursive for all the lyrics.
Okay.
Like it was a cool little lyric video for sing-along. And let's see, it was... Yeah, Disney Animation, Artist Motion, Art Review, the deleted scenes. They talked about that. Okay, so the only two things I think, other than the stuff you said before, the commentary was they had Once Upon a Parade, which
something about Disneyland parades, I guess.
which was a little
right?
which was a little feature video, like sort of fictional thing about this actress you probably know. Sarah Hyland from Modern Family.
Oh, yeah.
She was just like basically taking these little kids through Disneyland and like, telling about how the parade was important. But they're like, no, sucks, this is boring. The
kids were saying?
Yeah, they were like, oh man, there's not enough time to see that. I mean, the park's only open for 9 hours.
Well, it is true. You can't get all through the park in one day.
And then basically she told them the story of like the history of it and all the different like characters from the different films were there in the parade preparing and doing different things. And basically she played a background character in Fantasyland who didn't do anything special, but she had something special to do. So cute little moral. It was actually kind of cute. Got a little cheesy by the end.
I do like that actress too.
Okay, I was like she didn't look like she was the age she was. I was like, wow, that's why they cast her. And my favorite actually was the Evan Earl, A Man and His Art, which was like a 7-minute featurette about the guy who basically was responsible for
the design,
the whole visual aesthetic, and was like the main man in charge for doing it. And this is what blew my mind about it was, I guess he was the person that the animators with the characters went head to head to, because they were so insecure because Walt hired this guy for his backgrounds being so good. They were like, we are going to be outdone because the backgrounds are too. We need to figure something out.
Wow!
And so they had to cater with the designs to make it work somehow.
Okay.
So, and the thing that was crazy about it was that this guy, to some degree, painted at least a little bit of this whole movie.
Wow!
His strokes are literally, and he actually got into painting from a young age, and he was basically sort of like kidnapped by his abusive father, who like beat him up.
What?
But his father was also like a painter and forced him to paint along the way. That was like his thing. So he kind of didn't want to paint for a long time, but then he eventually did like commercials and like Hallmark cards and stuff, like Christmas cards, and then found his way to do cartoon shorts at Disney, where he just basically did paintings and then it's
pretty hardcore story for Disney.
Yeah, it was
bonus
and they were all and this guy he literally he suffered from polio at a young age, so half his face didn't move, and so they would joke and call him. They say he was not the smiling guy, and he kind of had a temper. He had rough life,
right?
So people felt like they couldn't approach him, and people were like, "Oh, we didn't want to bother him while he was working in the office." But eventually they did, and these people were just like praising him for being so dedicated he was the guy that made Sleeping Beauty look the way it is that guy.
Well, what's really interesting about now that we're in the late 50s is that a lot of the people that worked on these movies were still alive in the early 2000s and 2010s when these DVDs and all the bonus features have like started to come out. Like when I was watching the old ones we did, like Snow White, Pinocchio, like it would be like the daughter of somebody or whatever, which is fine, the stories get passed down. But I mean, people that worked on Sleeping Beauty, if they were in their 20s then, could certainly still be alive today in their 80s or 90s.
And he, unfortunately, I guess, was not alive by the time they released this, but they had people that worked with him talk about him, and they would have like voice clips of his that they probably put into the commentary.
And Walt was famous for audio recording every meeting,
documented all.
So
so that the only thing you hear
that's come in handy a lot with some of these older ones, like Dumbo. I think had a good amount of that.
A lot of old photographs.
Yeah,
I also I don't know if they've been doing this the other ones where they'll have black and white stills, but they'll show color for certain things, like if they're old stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, little note because I can't forget it. You know what made me happy? You probably saw in one of the featurettes. You know who one of the animators was that worked on Sleeping Beauty? I feel like I must have known this, but now I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. This person.
Oh, somebody famous in sci-fi, I guess.
No.
Young Nimoy. Young Tolkien.
I think he would have been. No.
I don't know.
Don Bluth worked on one of the animators.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he showed up in one of the featurettes a couple times. Was like, oh yeah, that guy was great. at least starting young.
Well,
Don Bluth
you
was,
love Don Bluth.
So I'm thinking,
he's one of your favorite animators.
Of course, Don Bluth is one of the animators on Sleeping Beauty.
Why would it make sense?
And then after Walt died, and they started getting into the 70s and 80s, and he started getting sick of the direction they're going.
Then he started his own.
This isn't why I joined Disney.
Right.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
Right.
And
very successful.
Gonna make Secret of NIMH.
More successful in the 80s.
People are gonna go this direction.
Disney.
And then make Disney realize they got to up their game.
Right, which they did.
Yeah.
All right, so the legacy of Sleeping Beauty. We know, of course, the castle, the Sleeping Beauty castle in Disneyland.
There, yeah.
Everybody sleeps there. Everybody goes there. Big hit. Video games, of course, Kingdom Hearts.
She is. Oh, that's right. You can't forget that. I was talking.
Aurora and Maleficent are both.
I was
in various Kingdom Hearts games.
Talking to Honey Lemon about it because I wanted to play through the first one with her. I forgot to mention, Maleficent is the main villain of the first game.
Is that right?
She's the one trying to get all the worlds.
That's why I love her so much.
Part of it because I knew that her villainous nature was even in other franchises.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. Now I got to find this on eBay. Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty board game, 1958. 2 to 4 players based on Sleeping Beauty. The object of the game is to be the first player holding 3 different picture cards to reach the castle and the space marked the end. I want to get this game.
How much will it be?
I don't know.
It'll be a thick price.
I've been saying, now once COVID really is over, me and Tim and my buddy Melissa, who's been on a few videos, we're going to review games. We're going to get some
board games.
Old.
You should do that.
And I want to have the first series of it be games based on TV shows and movies because I have a ton.
You found that one in Freaks and Geeks, right? The stock one. You did find that?
Oh yeah,
it's a real thing.
Pit. yeah. They played Pit on that. All right, so Sleeping Beauty theme parks, of course. You have the castle. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
All right. What else? And then Maleficent's goons are in Roger Rabbit.
Are they?
Which I forgot about.
Pigmen and goblins?
Apparently, yes. I forgot. And then the bluebirds from the film, are the ones that fly around the head. That makes sense. And then just various Disney shows. The fairies were in House of Mouse and all that kind of stuff.
Once Upon a
Time.
Did that air on ABC?
Yeah, that was ABC.
Ah, that's why. Okay.
In fact,
what's confused me?
In fact, they entered the characters so early on. I only watched like 3 or 4 episodes.
She was there?
I think she was in the second episode of Once Upon a Time.
Well, she's that popular.
So very popular.
And
then Aurora was in Ralph Breaks the Internet, of course, with the other Disney princesses.
That was funny.
And then the Maleficent live action. So
clearly,
many things have been influenced by this movie. Okay, so for you, I think this is one of the highest grades you could give.
Yeah, I guess there's only a couple grades I could give it.
I mean, I feel like anything lower than an A would be.
It would be
madness.
I was gonna say it'd be a blasphemy or something.
Yeah,
that'd be ridiculous.
Okay, I'm gonna give you my grade first.
Okay.
Then you tell me about it. Okay.
Okay.
Brace yourself. It's down there.
Oh no. What? I was thinking if he gives it like this, I'm gonna have to talk him up.
A.
Okay.
I don't think it's quite A+ worthy because of the storyline being a bit generic, the characters not being fleshed out enough, and while that was acceptable 20 years earlier in Snow White and Dumbo and stuff, we've come a long way since then. So I do say that's not up to snuff, but visually, this is to me the most striking thing that Disney has ever done, either animated or live action. For live action, it's 20,000 Leagues thus far, from what I've seen. For the era.
Yeah.
Obviously now I've seen more, but from the 1959 or before, it's 20,000 Leagues. But for animated or live action, visually, this is by far the most striking film I've watched.
Yeah.
For the Disney
it probably
catalog.
is. Yeah.
So I would love to give it that A+, but the story for me is not there.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Well,
but and also the choral beginning. Come on.
Well, it was only like a few seconds.
And I don't think the songs in this are quite as good as some of the other songs in recent. Shows.
I'll tell you what.
I feel like it's the same grade as Cinderella. Cinderella did a lot of things better than this.
I guess.
But a lot of things worse.
Well, I guess you're right. I think Cinderella was great for sure.
Yeah, I think the music in Cinderella is some of my favorites of the Disney catalog.
I'll tell you what, though. I understand what you're saying with the story, and I thought that might be what you'd say.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But considering this is trying to do kind of a fairy tale again, pretty much where you're just kind of expanding that, and they clearly said that a bunch of times. I get that.
You're going to plus it.
So it's an A plus.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, with the
Which
groundbreaking visuals.
I think.
And the thing is, also to some of your other points, I know you said the songs weren't that good. I've been humming "Once Upon a Dream" and
Is that right?
"Hail to the King." Well, it's catchy. I like it. It gets me in the mood for it, and I also love the score. I didn't care about
The score is great, actually.
So that was the music to me.
The score is pretty excellent. Well, it's not though. The music.
It's the score.
It is.
It's no sing-alongs.
It's not the only music.
Okay, all right.
Disney is known for its princesses singing the numbers,
and she did.
And she sang a couple that were, I thought, okay.
I think it's fine. Yeah.
If I had to grade the numbers, it's like a B.
Okay.
You know.
Well, look.
But
I'll be honest. Especially when it comes to these older Disney movies, if I was grading them for the songs, they'd be a lot lower. Okay,
is that right?
Yeah, I
like a lot of their songs.
I mean, I like some. There are some classics, but like a lot of my favorite stuff's from the '90s. You know that.
Well, of course.
Which I think there's so much catchy stuff.
I mean, you've got Elton John writing your songs. And that might be a little bit better.
And that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, I give them and that's why I don't really care. I'm like, it's nice, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, look. We were raised in an era of '90s music.
So much good music.
So for us,
look,
obviously,
I'm sorry. The whining choral moan.
I hate it.
From the 50s.
I'm done with it.
I hate all that. Like that's a big reason I think I don't like a lot of the old ones as much. At least growing up. But I really love this movie. I mean, it's just beautiful as a piece of art, and I think that's how I view it.
I think an A+ is just fine.
Because Walt said, let's make it a moving painting, and he did.
He actually did.
So, I mean, I think the story is conveyed through the emotions, and sometimes you get a Mad Max.
Sometimes Mad Max works.
Like, I think this is in that camp. It's
and
like it's about the
Max.
experience.
I did have a great experience watching this movie.
You'll get it.
Yes, I did.
Don't worry.
You think?
Yeah, I was actually thinking it's very possible.
Well, look, this is my first time through. Mm-hmm. I had that great Jolie film to play off of.
Look, I'll tell you what.
Dan,
I'll tell you what.
If I agree to make Maleficent a D, then you'll accept my A.
Watch Maleficent and Maleficent 2 again, and then watch this again. I think you'll appreciate it.
I really don't want to do that.
Well, but I'm serious.
Certainly the second one.
that might. I mean, look, it'll make you hate the movie more. I'm sure, or at least be disappointed.
I think an A+ is fine for this movie.
Oh, I know. I don't.
I think it's fine.
I knew what I was going to give it.
I knew what you were going to give it too.
I mean, like I said, an A is fine because the story is bare.
I think it's pretty bare, but
it's kind of the nature of the thing.
I guess my biggest flaw for it is that Walt did not quite change with the times in terms of this moving forward with a story,
fleshing out the characters more.
Yes, the animation is gorgeous beyond belief. We've been over this,
but that's
I have to admit,
as
advanced as the artwork is in this film, the characterizations, a lot of the other things are very similar to things he did 10, 15 years earlier.
And I'll say this too. I think that, like Lady and the Tramp, for instance, I think is nowhere near as good.
I did not care for that.
I don't really.
Didn't we give it like a B or something?
Like Lady and the Tramp
is like an okay movie.
But I will admit that, and I said this the last time, if you guys remember it, go watch it, is that Lady and the Tramp did, ironically, since the dogs have the most fleshed out, realistic
They actually did, I know.
And it was another level of storytelling.
You're right.
But the story and characters I didn't like that much.
Right.
But it was...
They were fleshed out.
But they were more fleshed out than Aurora.
Than this, or Cinderella, or whatever.
But like I said, because of the goal and the aesthetic, that's why I'm like, I understand the goal, so I'm fine with it. Like, it's one of the great Disneys. So,
I agree, it's one of the great Disneys.
But
I do.
It's one of the classic ones. It's my favorite. And they even said in one of the docs that because this is the last time Walt ever would put a huge amount of money to advance instead of going back.
Well, right, because it didn't do very well.
Then this was the end of kind of an era because not long after
Which
that,
is a shame.
He would die and then things would change and then soon we'll start to get into the more iffy territory with some of the
Just say the garbage era. That's fine.
The era
we're gonna find out.
The era that a lot of people have more issues with.
I think after 101 Dalmatians, there's not too many good animateds until like Black Cauldron.
Great Mouse Detective.
Great Mouse Detective.
And then
Rescuers, maybe.
Oliver.
But that's like late. But Oliver Company's like late 80s.
Like that's the thing though. It's like we're gonna have like 20.
I think most of the 60s and the 70s, like Jungle Book is not very well received. Pete's Dragon is not very well liked.
Sword in the Stone.
Sword in the Stone people hate. You know, and all the while, Tim and I are going to be watching 3 or 4 or 5 live actions for a while.
So you're going to see
some of which I like. I like the original Shaggy Dog, which is coming up. I liked That Darn Cat. I like some of, Herbie the Love Bug, but
there's some classics.
Right, but every classic, there's probably 3 or 4 garbage ones in there too that I don't know because they're not good.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But you're right. Basically, we're gonna soon get into the era.
I think this is kind of the end of. I think 101 Dalmatians is about the end of the classic era because I think Walt died
after that one,
right after, or maybe he died during the production. I don't remember. Mid 60s he died. So
not.
Shortly after Mary Poppins and like that whole era.
I guess that was the last big thing.
I think that was the last really big one that he was alive.
That's the real end of the era. There is Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
But for the purely
animated, I think 101's probably the end of that era.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But we'll talk about it. You are correct. This was our longest one.
I told you.
How could it not be? It's your favorite, and you watch the features. And you never get to watch the features
because I actually own it.
Yeah.
Because I love it that much, and I was like, you know what? I want to actually be able to tell you stuff and be able to.
Isn't it fun to just immerse yourself in the features,
other than just say, "Oh, that sounds cool"?
Because these DVDs are like chock full.
No, it was actually
cool stuff.
I was surprised.
They really are.
I was like, are these going to all be like pandering? And I'm like, oh, I will tell you one I did not like though was after they talked about. I forget if it was the. It was one of the featurettes about just one of the making of Sleeping Beauty. I think one guy that took over, and at the very end of it, like after the featurette was over, and I was like, that was a good little mini doc, and it was it was like Sword in the Stone, something else.
Oh, it was like all the ones you can get on Blu-ray.
And Frozen.
Yes, I saw that. Frozen. Frozen
like,
1, Sword in the Stone.
And that on top of all the previews, like and this came out. The one I had was right after Frozen. There's a lot of Frozen bits.
Right.
So I'm like, that's like, they got to push their brand. I'm like, I bought it already. I got it.
It's funny, mine has the promo for Frozen 2 in it. It's the first thing that comes on when you put the Blu-ray in.
That's funny. What happens when we get to that point? Talk about Frozen.
Frozen 2? I can talk about Frozen in 20 more years. That's fine. I'll be ready to watch it again by then. All right. That's it. This is Dan Does Disney. Next time I'll be back with Tim for... I don't think it's the Shaggy Dog yet. I think there's one more before that. But anyway, it'll be something. And then you and I will talk again at some point for 101 and all the other animateds. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Thank you for joining. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.